welcome back to another round of ISRL, sorry. Apologies for the short delay there, my device did not want to work, but welcome to round 12 here at Monza, a completely different track to where we were last week. We were in Monaco just a week ago, and now we are at the Temple of Speed with a very exciting championship fight brewing. We have 11 points between the new championship leader, being Victor, after Catastrophic lost the lead of the championship. Sadly, Catastrophic has had to step away from the division, so real shame for the Alfa Romeo driver. But Victor takes the lead of the championship, 11 points clear of Fallen Monkeys in behind him, and not too far behind is Michael Fures in the Aston Martin as well, 25 points back from the championship leader. So, as mentioned, we're on a completely different circuit compared to Monaco. Monaco was much more reliant on downforce and your speed through the corners. This one is much more different, as we look then to Victor, the championship leader, on that flying lap. Sorry, not flying lap. Their hot lap. A very good weekend for Victor last week. Not only did he win the race, but also took the championship lead as mentioned, and looking very strong, as does both Alpine cars recently. We have Wild Dog back in the Mercedes as well, who's looked quick back in Azerbaijan. So a lot still to play for. As you can see, 18 minutes of qualifying to go through. And as you can see, majority of drivers going out on soft tyres. Tyre degradation isn't massive on this lap. So the difference between soft and mediums won't be too much around this track. But then let's watch then as Victor starts his first flying lap. As he powers down the straight. Have to go into a braking almost down into second gear as they go through the Redifilio, and already an AlphaTauri has spun, or in the gravel immediately. Who is that? That would be Ninos, I think. So Ninos on their flying lap, not having the best start, and Victor is going to have to work their way through traffic as he goes through the Della Roggia chicane before going into the first of the two Lesmos. You can see the Haas of Philip Marshall gets out of the way. Victor might have wanted the slipstream before Philip Marshall pulled to the right. And now through the Ascari corner. I don't think it's a chicane. I think Ninos has had another spin. That looks like between the two Lesmo corners. And now Victor powers down the back straight into Parabolica. One final corner. Oil can first lap time on the board with 1:22.2. We think someone else has had a spin. That looks like an Alpha. As Victor then 1:21.8. Half a second clear for the moment. Let's watch Wild Dog here. Back in the Mercedes. And goes a bit wide. That's going to lose time all the way down this straight. Just picked up a lot of understeer. Coming through the Ascari chicane. One corner to go then into Parabolica. Doesn't use the full width of the corner there, but Wild Dog crossed the line 21.4, so 4 tenths clear of the Alpine. Great stuff there. Ninos is back in. This is the Maverick on medium tyres. But this will be interesting to see pace comparison as Maverick drops the back ends on the exit of the second Lesmo there. Seemed very, very tedious in pushing the car. And again, just very tentative there, very cautious. Mediums, of course, maybe struggling for grip on these initial few laps. We get a yellow in sector 2, and I think that's just a Mercedes slowing down. You see Maverick struggling to get the car turned in, can't push the car as much as they want to. Maverick crosses the line as a 1:23.6, so almost 2 seconds off the pace. And Fures just having a bit of a bumpy ride through the Rogier chicane. And again, they look very, very tentative through there. Doesn't look tidy on that first lap on mediums. Fures, as I mentioned, third in the championship now. Just, yeah, Fures can't really push just yet on these tyres. Maybe not up to optimal temperature or grip. You can see the flashing light going on there, so probably backed off anyways. Let's see if this is... We'll see what this lap is anyways. That's a 1:23.9, so not amazingly quick there. Let's watch then. Who should we get on board with? I think Fures is going back for another lap maybe. Maybe yellow in sector 2. That's just for a very slow Aston Martin, so that would be Maverick. Watch Fures' lap again. Wild Dog, I think, went for a second lap. Might be doing a second lap, and believe so. So Wild Dog going push lap, cool down, and then push again. Let's see if this exit is a bit better. Already half a second down though through the middle sector. And again, just struggles through Ascari to get the car turned in. Don't think Wild Dog's going to find an improvement on this lap. And takes a bit too much curb there into Parabolica. And as you can probably imagine, Wild Dog does pit. So, who should we go on board with? Let's watch Hartmann then in the sister Alpine. As Fures does improve to do a 1:22.2. Goes up to 5th fastest. So Hartmann with a 27.3 in the first sector. Coming through the Rogier chicane. It's a little more planted, to say the least. Picks up a little bit of understeer through the second Lesmo, but still keeps the speed up, so this isn't a bad... This doesn't look too bad at the moment for Hartmann. That's Sinful, who's gone 7th fastest. All the Monkeys, I think, has had one lap, but hasn't gone well, as Scarlo goes even quicker with a 1:21.2. That is provisional pole by 0.2 of a second. ISRL Hartmann then, through Parabolica, goes a little wide, and goes 9th fastest, but still a long way off the pace, 2 seconds back. The lap itself looked really steady, but just didn't have the pace to do so. Nines goes into the top 10. Fures back into the pits. Luck 14 then hasn't had a good couple of races recently, but would love to change that here in the Haas car. Bit tentative again. I think these medium tyres will need at least a couple of laps just to get up to temperature anyways, but Luck 14 will need a much stronger lap than that. Here's Rusty Orkan, currently 4th fastest. Going through the 2 Lesmos. Not looking too bad actually in the 1 McLaren in this session so far. Gravel trap, in the other McLaren not here at the moment. Got 15 drivers for the race today. As now Rusty Orkan comes down into Parabolica. And powers through. Tries to pick up the throttle as early as they can. And Orkan remains in 4th place. Let's watch Wild Dog. Wild Dog wants to try and take that provisional pole back. Let's see where Wild Dog can... how much Wild Dog can improve. 7.5 minutes to go. Has lost a 10th in the first sector already. And there's a car ahead of him. That will be Ninos in the Alpha Tauri again. And Ninos has had a spin and has made contact with Wild Dog now. Has that impeded Wild Dog's lap, maybe? We'll see. But Ninos having a horrific time at the moment. I didn't see that middle sector, so I've missed if there was improvement or not, so apologies. Looked a little tidier for Wild Dog through Ascari at least. It's a bit tentative still, but Wild Dog then through Parabolica. Goes as wide as they dare. And the Belgian driver does retake that provisional pole, so if there was any distraction from Ninos, didn't impede Wild Dog too much, and now is on pole position by 0.07 of a second. And that is Philip Marshall, who has had a moment, it looks like at the De La Rocha chicane, and I think is waiting for the Red Bull to come past, and indeed it does. Might want to clear away from that Mercedes where they can. My Coxong then. Next up. For in the sister Mercedes. Still on those medium tyres, and Mike does indeed pit. So who's on another fast lap? This is ISRL Demoniac, I think. Apologies if I've mispronounced that. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, so apologies. The Alfa Romeo coming through. Wild Dog has again increased their advantage by another fastest lap. Now 0.3 of a second clear of Scarlo. Let's see where the this Alfa Romeo is. We've got Alfa Romeo 2 and 5. As now through Parabolica. They come. And it does look like they've slowed down there. Right, all the cars are now deciding to come out. As you can see, everyone from 2nd to 4th coming out. Scarlo, Victor and Oilcan coming out. Scarlo needs 3 attempts to claim pole position back, with 4 minutes to go. Sinful looks like they've abandoned their lap. Fallen Monkeys has invalidated. Fallen Monkeys down in 14th at the moment. This is not good for the driver in 2nd place. Let's watch Victor then and see where Victor can get themselves in. And Victor is up by just over 1.5 in the first sector alone. Currently 0.6 back from provisional pole at the moment. But crucially for Victor, very much clear of Fallen Monkeys, who's down in 14th at the moment. And that's the main target for the Alpine driver. And also Michael Fures is down in 6th as well. So Victor would still be happy getting ahead of those two. Wild Dog back into the pits. Wild Dog should get another lap in. Good laps so far from the Mercedes driver. Here comes Victor then through Parabolica. A lot of traffic in Sector 1. Victor's thankfully very clear of it. Clear track for the Alpine. And remains third, but closes the gap up. Let's watch then Scala. I think Scala's had a moment. Maybe coming through the traffic, perhaps. So Scala not on a particularly fast lap just yet. Rusty Orkan having a moment through Ascari. They're really struggling to get the car turned in for that corner, from what I've noticed. That will have definitely lost the McLaren some time. Again, very tentative through. Parabolica as well, the car just picking up mass amounts of understeer. And Oil Can remains in 5th, doesn't improve. Let's watch Scalo again. Fures, by the way, has just gone up to 4th fastest as well. Good lap from the Aston Martin. Let's watch Scala. I think Scala was indeed on a fast lap. Or if it was, didn't improve, but I think this one is Scala's quicker lap. Has got a fair bit of traffic to go through. Bit messy through the chicane there. Now through Curva Grande. And there is a Red Bull in the way. That looks to be, I think, Fallen Monkeys. As that's an Alpine that's just moving out of the way. Fallen Monkeys is not keeping out of the way. Neat, and there's so much traffic that Scalo's got to negotiate here. Fallen Monkeys is technically on an outlap, not on an outlap, but gets out of the way. Scalo then up just a little bit in the middle sector, not by much though. So it'll mostly come down to this final sector here for Scalo. Scalo will have both this lap and one more lap left. So this might be Scalo's best chance here to take provisional pole. It's all down to this final sector. Where's the Alfa Romeo going to put himself? And not enough. Closes the gap, but still down. Still remains in 2nd place at the moment. So Wild Dog, provisional pole sitter for the moment. Fures then would love to at least get ahead of Victor, if possible. Fures has already done 3 laps on those soft tyres, so they might not have much grip in them. Wild Dog has just started their final lap as well. So far looking very good for the Mercedes driver. Checkered flag is out. Victor will not improve, so remains 4th. So Fures, if he can find 3 tenths on this lap, they'll be ahead of the Alpine, which will be great news for them. Alfa Romeo as well, mentioned them, 2nd and 3rd for the moment. Good stuff for those two. Here comes Fures then, goes 2nd fastest. That's a good effort from Fures there. Scalo's invalidated. Demaniac, I think, is still going. I am butchering this this name, so I apologies. Wild Dog then has Scalo for company, but did Scalo get in the way there? Wild Dog doesn't improve, but stays on pole position. I think Demaniac is not improving either. So that will be Wild Dog provisional pole then. Ninos invalidates. See where I think Demaniac has, well, is a long way off the pace. And that would mean Wild Dog then provisional pole ahead of Fures, ahead of 2 Alfa Romeos. Good result then from Wild Dog. But an equally very good result for Alfa Romeo, 3rd and 4th for them. Victor down in 5th. But the big shocker, I think, for me, is Fallen Monkeys down in 14th. That's a huge surprise. Sprint didn't set a lap in for the one sole Ferrari. The Italian-based teams didn't do so well, 13th and 15th respectively. That's a huge shocker, but this is a good opportunity then for Victor and Furious. And Fallen Monkeys with a lot of work to do. So then, here's the top 10. Wild Dog on pole by a tenth of a second from Michael Furious. Scarlo P3. Dominic P4. Ahead of Victor, Oxong, Oil Can, Maverick, Philip Marshall, and Hartman rounds out the top 10. Up 14, P11, Sinful P12, Ninos P13, Fallen Monkeys, disappointing 14th, and Sprint did not set a lap time and starts in 15th. So we have 15 cars on the grid. We have Whitson, who said they may not be able to join. Chances are probably not. There is a glitch that is seen with the new update. So if you join late, there has been known glitch issues, which has caused a number of issues for a number of different leagues, actually, from what I've understood from it. So let's see what we have to work with for qualifying. Looks for the race. Sorry, it looks like it's a complete dry session. So, no risk of rain. Again, as I believe all of the top 10 did qualify on soft tyres. So, from what I understand, they will be duty bound to start on them. But then, what do the other 5 drivers do behind? That's the next question. We'll see what they go for. We've got 18 seconds to go for them to prep their strategies, maybe change a couple of parts. You're only allowed to change certain elements of the car, that being the front wing, the tyre pressures, and the brake balance differentials. So, not a lot you can change, but they might be helpful during the race. And looks like, actually, from the majority of it, they're all starting on soft tyres, minus Fallen Monkeys and Sprink, who will start on medium tyres. That's understandable from oh, sorry, no, it's Sinful on the medium tyres, sorry. Fallen Monkeys is on the soft tyres, so most starting on softs, a couple starting on mediums. We'll see how it plays out. And there you can see the tyre strategies. Ignore the softer hard tyres. Softer mediums is easily done here. The only time I think you'd need the hard tyres is if you have a moment on the first lap. Just allows you to run to the end of this race, but the track itself is not high on tyre degradation, so the softer mediums will go just fine. Sprink has dropped well behind the rest of the field. We'll need to catch up very quickly. But there's a long run down into turn 1, and Wild Dog won't have the benefit of the slipstream like the others will. So Wild Dog's pole position could actually be a disadvantage here. And we know how tight the run into the Red Affiliate chicane is. So Wild Dog will need to position that Mercedes incredibly well. And that will come down to a good start and good placement. Furious, for the benefit of the championship, would love to get ahead of Wild Dog and then just clear away, much like Wild Dog would like to do. And Wild Dog makes their way back to the grid. The rest will form up. Big gap once again between the top 5 and then everyone else. Huge gap forming there. Wild Dog is going to be waiting on the grid for quite a while, actually, with these tyres. Whilst these cars form up. Now, of course, we'll take temperature out of the tyres. So, the Ferrari then of Sprink lines up on the grid. We have 15 drivers ready for the race. And I think we are ready to go. Here's the lights then. And we are underway then for round 12 of the Italian Grand Prix. Looks like a good start for Furious then. Furious already ahead of the Mercedes, and there's a freeway battle down into turn 3, and Wild Dog They all go a bit wide. Wild Dog goes off the track, and so does Furious slightly, but Wild Dog returns safely and returns back in second place. That might give Victor an opportunity. Victor up into third place at the moment, ahead of Mike Oxon. Great start for them. The two Alfa Romeos having a horrid start, down in 5th and 6th. So is Rusty Oil Can, but already leading, and Wild Dog has retaken the lead of this race from Michael Furious, and Wild Dog immediately claims the lead of this race. I wonder if Furious just had a horrid exit coming off the down the Curva Grande there, but Wild Dog will lead this race from Michael Furious, from Victor, ahead of Mike Oxong. Then comes the two Alphas of Scarlo and Dominic. Oil Can in 7th, ahead of the two Hasses of Philip Marshall and Luck 14, and Maverick rounds out the top 10. Hartman up to 11th, ahead of the two Red Bulls. Fallen Monkey has gained 1 place on Ninos, and Sprink still rounds out the back of the field. But looks very close at the moment. There's an Alfa Romeo having a look at the Mercedes of Mike Oxong, trying to go down the inside of Parabolica, and I think Furious just had a moment. Someone just had a little wobble, and I think that was Michael Furious then. And will Victor take advantage of this? Just a little too far back to go up the inside. There is Mike Oxong defending from Scarlo. Scarlo has got the position on the Alfa Romeo. Now the second one of Dominic will have a look as well. And there is Rusty Oilcan and Philip Marshall. I saw there Oilcan having a moment through the first chicane, and there goes Oilcan defending back from Philip Marshall and reclaiming that 7th place. But now back up the inside comes Philip Marshall, and Oilcan goes wide, and that allows the Haas straight through, and Luck 14 is very interested, and as will Maverick as well. Maverick is on the inside of Luck 14 and gets ahead into the first Lesmo, and now the Alpine of Hartman is very much interested, but Maverick goes wide off the track, and now once again Hartman gets ahead of both of them and up into 9th place. A lot going on in these first few laps, sorry. Wild Dog, though, leads by half a second. We've got a yellow flag somewhere, and that is for Ninos, who has had a spin down into the second Lesmo. But Wild Dog then, no DRS just yet. And Furious is closing in on the Belgian driver. And there's the representation for it, a fastest lap for the Aston Martin. And now we'll have DRS enabled. Wild Dog will have to do a lot of work to keep this Aston Martin behind. How much pressure on the back of that Mercedes. Victor's not too far behind as well. And they're slowly dropping the Alfa Romeo of Scarlo behind. There's a battle going on for 11th, I think. This is Sinful and Luck 14. Luck is dropping back. And as they go, and there, Sinful, I think, got a bit too optimistic there. Tried to turn in, and Sinful just hit the curve, and that spun the car around. Bit ambitious there from the Red Bull. And Furious well, I thought had taken the lead, but Wild Dog had the inside line for Ascari, and Wild Dog just about holds on to the lead. Oxong has got ahead. We've got a change of positions going on. I think Oxong's just had a moment. Yeah, Oxong's had a moment, as I think so is... Who else has had a moment? That's Luck 14. Fallen Monkeys is up a place. Maverick's had a moment as well. Ninos has left the session, it seems. There's a lot to focus in on. Here's the battle for the lead. This is Furious on Wild Dog. And that looked very, very straightforward there for the Aston Martin, who takes the lead of this race. Rusty Orcan has got ahead of Philip Marshall. ISRL Hartman's now on the back as well. We think Dominic's just had a moment as well. Luck 14's got a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. So it looks like Mike Oxong, Maverick, yeah, they've had a moment as well. Something's happened there between those two. Scarlo is on the back of Victor at the moment. And there is Philip Marshall and also Rusty Oilcan having moments there between the pair of them. I think those were separate issues, but that will drop them well down the field. Fallen Monkeys at the moment up into 10th at the moment, but is to get clear of some of these cars as quickly as possible. And once again, as everything goes on, Furious has retaken the lead of this race. I completely apologise, there's just so many things to focus on. I don't know where to look, but Wild Dog, I think, has depleted up a lot of battery. And it was only a matter of time before Furious took the lead of this race. And now, Wild Dog is under pressure from Victor. And as you can see, Furious is well and truly clear and pulling away. Wild Dog harvesting energy. You don't want to be doing that down this back straight. And Victor will be all over that Mercedes. And Victor, there was a bit of a nudge there. Don't think he knew where Wild Dog was going to go. Now Victor will have another go. Wild Dog is going to struggle to keep the Alpine behind. And just about holds on, does Wild Dog. Scala is right there, ready and waiting. The problem for Wild Dog was Wild Dog would like to recover as much battery as possible. Can't really do that when there's so much pressure, but Victor just had a moment for the second Lesmo, and now Scala is very interested. Can Scala go around the outside of the Alpine going into Ascari? The answer is no. And there is another moment there as well, and that is Sprink in the Ferrari, who has had a moment. I think has Fallen Monkeys had a moment as well? I think so. But Sprink in the Ferrari in their home race, not looking so good for them. I'm intrigued to see Scala here. They'll both have DRS on each other. And I think Wild Dog's in trouble here, because there's a very fast Alpine of Victor coming through, and also Scala as well. And Victor is ahead of the Mercedes and up into second place. Wild Dogs is really struggling now. Completely on the back foot. And there is Dominic ahead of Luck 14. And Luck 14 has had a moment, actually. So that's even worse news for the Alfa Romeo. But, oh, sorry, not the Alfa Romeo. That's the Haas. Apologies. Here's Scala again. We've got a yellow flag, and that is for an Aston Martin, I think, of Maverick. He's had a moment. Wild Dog is keeping up with Victor. Wonder if Wild Dog can recover this second place back. Wild Dog just sort of lets Victor know that they're there, but Victor's had a moment through Ascari. Once again struggling, and now Wild Dog might come back here again. Wild Dog's going to struggle for power, but look at this, Wild Dog down the inside. Just a little too far back for the Mercedes. Oh, and Scala's lost the back end. Was there contact with Wild Dog, maybe? I don't know. But Scala, that's a lot lost. And as Scala got damage to their front wing, Victor, as you can see, is harvesting energy as well. Victor seems to be struggling for grip. But Wild Dog can't take advantage just yet. Scala is now 2 seconds behind this battle. We need to recover quickly. We'll see if is there damage on the Alfa Romeo. As we have our first pit stop. And that is for Maverick. Is that front wing change? No, that is just a tyre change, so on go the medium tyres. A little early on. And Furious' 2 second gap appears to have dissipated. That gap to Furious has gone from 2 seconds down to 8/10. So what has happened there to the Aston Martin? Suddenly the two cars behind are very close to the Aston Martin now, and of course they're fighting in the Drivers' Championship, these two. Yellow flag in Sector 2. Yeah, that's Ninos again. Ninos, as you might have seen, left earlier. Let's see what happens here. Victor will have DRS on Furious. Doesn't seem close enough, neither does Wild Dog, and Scalo doesn't appear to have damage as well, because the Alfa Romeo is right back on the hunt for those two. There's Hartmann under pressure then from Dominiak. One Alpine putting pressure on. The other one is under pressure. And out of the race goes Rusty Oil Can, and that is in the pits. So that shouldn't be a safety car, a virtual safety car needed. Back on board with the battle for the lead, and Wild Dog has got a 3-second time penalty. And these will add up. The only other driver that's got a penalty is Luck 14. That's a 5-second penalty for cutting the corner. Fallen Monkeys is not really making up a lot of ground at the moment. Stuck in 10th at the moment. So Red Bull needs to try and clear this field as quickly as possible. Remember, he's second in the championship. Fierez then with the Alpine of Victor behind, and also Wild Dog. Here we go again. Is Victor close enough to go for a move? Is getting quicker. And Victor, well, not completely ahead, but Victor goes a little deep, but gets the position and also forces Fierez off, and that allows Wild Dog through. And Wild Dog is going to come back for the lead of this race here as they go through the Curva Grande. Will this be a grande move for Wild Dog? The answer is no. Victor just had enough straight line speed to keep ahead of the Mercedes. The Mercedes. So Victor does take the lead of this race. Fierez getting kind of forced off a little bit. Fierez loses 2 places in about one corner, really, or 2 corners, and might be under pressure from the Alfa Romeo of Scarlo as well. Scarlo's been very patient, and all this fighting will bring the Alfa Romeo driver back into play. 4 cars line of Sterling. Wild Dog again goes very wide for Ascari. Yeah, really struggling for understeer on this one, and this is Fierez. Thought was pulling out to have a go at Wild Dog there. Doesn't look like it. That's a good exit from Victor. And into the pits then comes Michael Fierez. So Fierez going for the undercut, but for speeding in the pit lane, gets 5 seconds added to their time. So if that was Fierez's attempt to undercut, once again, doesn't go well, and Victor goes wide, and once again Wild Dog's going to have another look. And this one, I think Wild Dog through the Curva Grande, this time does get the Alpine, and the lead changes hands again, and Wild Dog back into the lead of this race. Whitson just reporting, by the way, damage is on-off. So that's interesting. So that's very good then for Scarlo, if the damage is indeed off. Mike Oxong is pitted, as has Philip Marshall as well, so hard tyres for both of them. I think they might regret that one. So where is... Looking at where is... Who are we looking for, sorry? We were looking for Fierez. Fierez back out in 7th place. Not a bad gap to come out there, but that 5-second penalty might come back to bite the Aston Martin driver later on. There is ISRL Scarlo having a look at Victor. Will any of them follow the top 2 into the pits? I think Wild Dog is about to, and is doing so. So Wild Dog covering off then the threat of the undercut. Meanwhile, Scarlo's having a look at Victor here. I think keeps a lookout, but a little too far back to have a go. On go the medium tyres then for Wild Dog. The Aston Martin driver is actually coming through the field. You can see Fierez down the back here. I think this is going to be a successful undercut. And it is a successful undercut. Fierez ahead of Wild Dog. The undercut has worked. And that is great news for the Aston Martin driver. Wild Dog will have to work to get that lead back again. Or the net race lead. So that's a shame for them. Luck 14 pits as well for hard tyres. Interesting call to go for them. But might be able to push a little bit more on those tyres perhaps. Who knows? Scarlo then. Having a look on Victor. So now what will these two do? Will they go longer or will they keep going? Scarlo's thinking of a move on Victor here. And I think this will be another change in the leadership. This time now for Scarlo. Scarlo ahead of the Alpine and up into the lead of this race for those two. And both of them do decide to pit at the last minute there. So now the question is, where will these two go? Or where will they come out as? So here we go then. This will be medium tyres for both. And on they go. So Michael Fures should retain the lead of this race. And does so. There goes the Mercedes. Just about ahead of those two. But that move from Scarlo down on Victor was crucial, because it ensures Scarlo is ahead of the Alpine. Fallen Monkeys does pit as well. Will come back out into this race in 9th place ahead of the two Haas drivers. So only ISRL Hartmann, who leads this race, yet to pit. As is Sprinks and also Sinful. Remember, those two started on medium tyres. Sprink is actually within DRS of Mike Oxlong. Be interesting to see here. We've got a yellow flag, and that is for Luck 14. And once again, that's through the Red Affilio chicane. And it comes back out, but down in 13th place. Maybe struggling for grip on those hard compound tyres. Wild Dog just slightly loose in the back end there. That will get Scarlo very interested there. Again, they look like to be struggling for temperature. Hartmann does pit, so Michael Fures will take the lead of this race. Fures 3 seconds out in front. This is really strong stuff from Fures. Here comes Scarlo then. What can Wild Dog do in response to this? Wild Dog already defends to the outside, moves back. And Scarlo, I thought for a minute, might have sent it up the inside, but thinks against it. And now down at the Curva Grande. Wild Dog doing more than enough to keep ahead of the Mercedes driver. Oh, sorry, the Alfa Romeo, sorry. And retains that second place. How much will these penalties, though, start to incur for these drivers? Remember, Fures has got a 5-second penalty. Wild Dog's got a 3-second. He's got a 3-second penalty. So Maverick. Oh, and that is Maverick having a spin. And from what Whitson has said, the damage appears to be off. So Maverick is still in this race. And smacks into the wall for good measure. So no damage means we'll get no safety cars or virtual safety cars for that. Which is good for Maverick, keeps them in the race. And will be beneficial for Scarlo. Scarlo does not want a safety car at this point. Here comes the Alfa Romeo on Wild Dog. Wild Dog couldn't keep Scarlo behind for that much longer. And up into second place goes the Alfa Romeo. Wild Dog drops to third place. And now Scarlo will begin the chase to Michael Fures, who is leading this race by just under 3 seconds. So where is the... So there isn't... The pack seems to be very spread out for the moment. No one really within close range of each other. Scarlo has just taken about 4 tenths out of Fures already. So Scarlo pushing hard to try and catch Fures. Fures, remember, has a 5-second time penalty. As long as Scarlo stays within 5 seconds and doesn't get any penalties themselves, Scarlo could be looking for a race win here. Scarlo again just slightly loses the back end for Ascari. You can see that gap is really coming down now between the top two. We could see a scrap in a moment. Here is Fallen Monkeys, who is after the Ferrari of Sprink, as Scarlo sets the fastest lap of this race. Gap down to just under 2 seconds. It's almost a full second was taken that lap for Scarlo. Good pace there. Right, let's see if Fallen Monkeys can clear this Ferrari down the back straight. Ferrari power against Honda power. And not enough straight there for Sprink. And there is Wild Dog and Scarlo. Now what has happened there? Because at one point it looked like Scarlo was almost clear and just about keeps ahead of Wild Dog. And whatever's happened there, whether that's a mistake maybe from Scarlo, it's not only helped Wild Dog keep in the fight for second, that 2 second gap has now once again risen up to 3.5 seconds, and now around the outside of Ascari tries to go Wild Dog. Wild Dog only gets a footful of gravel for that, and that will bring Victor right back into this fight. But that's a mistake that Scarlo does not want to afford to make, because that has now cost Scarlo. Furious can breathe a sigh of relief. Victor through all this as well has closed up to Wild Dog as well. So Wild Dog's third place at the moment could be in jeopardy, and Wild Dog goes deep through the chicane. Victor will have a much better exit through there. At least you can see Wild Dog is already harvesting electrical energy, so already used a lot of charge in the battery. Fallen Monkeys, by the way, did get ahead of Sprink whilst all that happened. We got a yellow flag, and we think that's for Maverick, I think. Now, what has happened there to the Aston Martin? It's a bit of an odd place to actually spin the car, to be honest, but Maverick back on track and about to be lapped by Maverick's teammate. There goes Furious. Yeah, as I was mentioning, Fallen Monkeys did get ahead of Sprink and up into 8th place. Next one is Oxlong, who is a further 4 seconds up the road. As Maverick does pit, potentially for some fresher tyres or to retire from the race, which is exactly what's happened. Victor has got much more speed here and much more closing speed. And Victor and Wild Dog gives a little bit of a forceful shove, but holds on to that third place there. Wild Dog, I don't think, did anything wrong there in that defence. That's just the nature of that corner, to be honest. But good from Wild Dog not to give up that fight. But now that's brought the Maniac into play. And now it's the Maniac who will have a look at Victor. Victor, who's just lost DRS to Wild Dog as well through that fight as well. And now what can the Alfa Romeo do? Alfa Romeo looks very strong at the moment, 2nd and 5th. But Scarlo unable to close up that gap to the lead of this race, but still is doing enough to potentially take the win with Furious' 5-second time penalty. Furious needs to increase that gap by at least another 1.3 seconds or more to ensure that win is secured, because at the moment it isn't. Dominic not able to close up to Victor down the back straight. Victor would very much ideally like to close up to Wild Dog to get the benefit of the DRS. Sprint gets a penalty for speeding the pit lane and chooses now to pit off those medium tyres. The only driver who hasn't made a pit stop yet. And we'll go on to the soft compound tyres. Philip Marshall's also pitting off the hard tyres as well. So Sprink should come out in 10th place. Back on board for the battle for 4th at the moment. Scarlo is starting to close in on Furious at the moment. Only by a couple of attempts on this occasion. But is doing more than enough at the moment. Got 10 laps to go, including this one. Furious then has a 3.5 second gap, so that gap is closing. And will this gap close between Victor and Dominic? The answer is no, because Victor's got DRS now on Wild Dog. And that will halt off that performance. Wild Dog hits the curb and struggles with the back end, and this will give Victor a very good opportunity here. And Wild Dog shuts the door through the Curva Grande. Can Victor try and go around the outside maybe? The answer is no, but it does force Wild Dog off the optimal line, but so does Victor. And Dominic, I thought, could have taken advantage there, but not so much. So here we go again. We got a yellow flag in sector 2, and that is for Fallen Monkeys. And that's not what the Red Bull needs, who is currently second in the championship. With Victor in 4th and Furious in 1st, Fallen Monkeys is going to lose ground in the championship at this rate. Victor's once again closing back up on Wild Dog. These lot have been scrapping away with each other. Scarlo is gradually closing that gap again on Furious. It's not by much, but that 5-second penalty looming over the Aston Martin. It's good enough for the time being. Wild Dog again through that first curve, struggling. Here's once again these three just stay line of Sterling for now. But all it takes is one mistake for an opportunity to be made. Dominic looks much closer to Victor here. Wild Dog gets another 3-second time penalty. That's 6 seconds now for Wild Dog. Wild Dog has got to be careful not to keep doing this, because this is going to cost the Mercedes driver. That podium is no longer really safe unless the others get penalties behind. Dominic is close now to Victor. Coming up to Parabolica. Try and keep as close as you can because the DRS comes up. And Victor won't have DRS this time. Dominic absolutely will. And the Alpha gets close. And the Alpine can't really defend. Well, will defend it under braking. And, well, gives a little forceful shove to Victor. But I think that's just hard, fair racing there. And Dominic up into 4th place at the moment. And with the way things stand at the moment, Alfa Romeo could be having a double podium here. Meanwhile, Scarlo's lost a lot more ground to Furious. That gap has opened up to us 4.2 seconds now. So, don't know if Scarlo's made a mistake there. But now, Dominic will pursue Wild Dog, who's already got 6 seconds worth of penalties. So, in theory, that's already a net podium. So just needs to keep it very smooth and consistent, not getting penalties themselves. But the gaps between the rest of the cars looks pretty much stable. There's a yellow flag initially as Nino's pits. That's where Fallen Monkeys was again, but I think didn't look like there was anything wrong there. Ines will come out, I think, a lap down from the rest of the field. Mike Oxong is closing in on ISRL Hartman. That's for the battle for 6th at the moment between those two. Not doing a bad job on the hard tyres. Philip Marshall, next one to get a 3-second time penalty. Perez needs another 9 attempts to ensure that Scarlo is kept behind. Mike Oxon rapidly closing in on Hartman. Wonder if Mike Oxon can lean on these tyres more. The more durable tyres between the two of them. This is the closest battle on the grid. Oh, sorry. Closest battle going on so far. Hartman struggling through Ascari, but not as much as Mike Oxong. And Oxong caught the curb. And thankfully, again, as mentioned, the damage appears to be off. So Mike Oxong can keep going. But Hartman can breathe a sigh of relief. Mike Oxon now 8 seconds behind those two, and Fallen Monkeys might fancy an opportunity later on. Who else is getting closer? I think Demoniac's pressure on Wild Dog seems to have stopped. Drops 2 seconds back. This is Philip Marshall on RPM Sinful. This is the battle for 11th and 12th at the moment. As it so happens, with 5 laps to go, Michael Flores is not doing enough to keep the lead, keep the win at the moment. Scarlo keeping within that 5-second window. They're going to be doing enough to keep that podium. And, well, Wild Dog has just had a moment, I think, through Ascari, because there was a brief yellow flag, and Wild Dog has lost out to Dominiac. And now that is a guaranteed podium for the Alfa Romeo. So double Alfa Romeo podium at the moment. And now Victor will look to try and snatch 4th place from the Belgian driver. Keep an eye back on board this battle for 11th. Moved away from that briefly. Sinful already sticking to the inside line. But right now, Philip Marshall just patiently waiting. Goes wide and just understeers them once again. Through Ascari, they're just carrying a bit too much speed. And that's cost Philip Marshall. Whether it's the turbulent air they're getting from the car ahead, it's causing problems. Meanwhile, the gap at the front is 3.6 seconds. That's not enough for Flores. Victor dropping back, is stuck behind this, behind Ninas at the moment. Ninas has left the session, but is a lap down. Philip Marshall pits. Don't suspect of any damage. This damage appears to be turned off. And Scarlo is continuing to close that gap up to Flores. I think Nunes might have returned that, but not moving out of the way of blue flags in the nicest way possible. Philip Marshall, you can see down the Haas rejoins. Down in 5th place, and here comes Victor then. Victor's really closed the gap up now to Wild Dog. But Victor just lifts there slightly through the Curva Grande. You can see Victor just easing off there, and Wild Dog bounces over the curbs once again. He goes straight off the track for the for that. And Whitson's reporting they will investigate the no damage situation. As Luck 14 gets a 5-second time penalty. Fures has got a 3-second time penalty, so I think Fures' defeat at the moment is inevitable. Not only that, but possible full race restart or full session restart. I disagree with that personally. I think it's way too late. But what I was saying about Michael Fures at the moment, Fures, what's the penalties looking like? 8 seconds. What's the gap between the leaders? So at the moment, Fures is not at risk of losing second place as well. But if Dominiak can close up to Fures in these last 2 laps, could be an Alfa Romeo 1-2. But I think they're going to struggle for time. And here comes Victor on Wild Dog, and they bang wheels there. That's enabled Wild Dog to keep 4th place. Sprink does snatch the fastest lap there, but they are in the top 10, so they will get the extra points for that. But Fures has got 2 laps to go, and Dominiak is trying their best to close the gap. They needed 1.2 seconds or so. Keep your eye on that. Meanwhile, Victor still trying to get ahead of Wild Dog. Wild Dog's going to lose out due to penalties anyways. And Wild Dog really is struggling for the car, as well as you saw there. That's Philip Marshall. Wild Dog trying to hold on. At the moment, Wild Dog is going to lose out to Victor anyways. So it might be a question of why is Wild Dog fighting it, but at the same time, nothing really for Wild Dog to lose. We are on the final lap. And Victor not being able to do enough there. Meanwhile, for Fures, it's been a solid drive out front. But sadly, penalties are going to decide this race. And Fures, that speeding in the pit lane, plus all those track warnings, are going to be costly at the end. But Fures, for what it's worth, has drove a phenomenal race. Victor has got ahead, finally, of Wild Dog, and I think someone has spun. That might be Fallen Monkeys, who's had a pretty miserable race, to say the least. But for Michael Fures, this hasn't been a bad job. But look at the gap between Fures and Dominiak. It is really close. Dominiak needs half a second to snatch second place. Fures is going to cross the line first, but with penalties, it is going to be Scala who takes the win. And now we wait to see, will Dominiak snatch second place? Not enough, just 8 tenths back, but that's a double podium for Alfa Romeo. Victor in 4th, ahead of Wild Dog in 5th. ISRL Hartmann will more than likely come to take 6th place, or no, 5th place because of Wild Dog's penalties, missing out by 2 tenths. Mike Oxong will take 7th place for the sister Mercedes. Sprink looks to take 8th, but I think penalties are going to keep Fallen Monkeys ahead on this occasion. Sprink 8th, as you can see, 8th. I think Fallen Monkeys will snatch that and just about takes 8th place away from Sprink, as RPM Sinful will complete the top 10 finishes. Luck 14 will finish in 11th, and Ninos in 12th, Philip Marshall in 13th, but a good race between those lot, to say the least. For Scarlo, who's currently 13th in the championship, that's a huge result for the Alfa Romeo driver. Meanwhile, for Michael Fures, that's not a bad result either, as Furious was able to finish ahead of Victor and Fallen Monkeys. But there is the Alfa Romeo of Scarlo. Great racing between all of the drivers. But Scarlo's pace was exceptional, and no penalties proved to be their salvation. So here is the final results then. Scarlo P1 ahead of Furious P2. Dominic P3, double podium for Alfa Romeo. Victor and Hartmann P4 and 5 for Alpine respectively. Wildong and Oxong P6 and 7 for Mercedes. Fallen Monkeys in 8th, Sprig in 9th, Sinful in 10th. Luck 14 did get the fastest lap in 11th, but because it's outside the top 10, won't score points for that. Nearest in 12th, Philip Marshall 13th, and our 2 retirees being Maverick and Rusty Oil Can. So thank you again for that, guys. We will be back again in a week's time. Unfortunately, the calendar, I cannot find it on Discord. I've had a look earlier and I just cannot see it anywhere. So, but we will definitely be back next week. So thank you again, as always, for watching, and we will see you next week. Take care.